Ladies and gentlemen, the White House has gone full American badass. Kid Rock just strutted into the Oval Office alongside President Trump to wage war against a ticket scalping cartel that's been bleeding American concert-goers dry for decades. With a stroke of his pen, Trump has signed an executive order directing the FTC and Attorney General to crush exploitative scalping practices. But here's what the media won't tell you. It's not just about concert tickets. This is about the culture war's last gasp. When Kid Rock dines with Bill Maher at the White House, you know the establishment's crumbling. The unlikely alliance that's forming before our eyes is sending shockwaves to the globalist power structure, and the walls are coming down. And as we move through 2025, one thing is crystal clear. De-dollarization is accelerating. China and BRICS nations are terrified of President Trump's economic strategy, driving them to reduce dependence on the U.S. dollar. But their weapon of choice is gold. China has resumed massive gold purchases and deliberately underreported their acquisitions. Why? Well, it's because they're being secretive. They recognize gold's intrinsic value and immunity to economic manipulation. While global powers prepare for financial upheaval, Americans need to consider their own protection. And gold offers a tangible hedge against uncertainty that has stood the test of time. Noble Gold Investments provides a path to securing your financial future with precious metals. So visit nextnewsgold.com today, and qualified accounts will receive 10 1-ounce silver American Eagle coins. That's nextnewsgold.com. It's linked down below, and the number on the screen is 877-646-5347. Tell them that Gary Franchi sent you. Okay, so we have this clip here, and this is just wild to see Bill Maher talking like this with Chris Cuomo. The liberal comedian Bill Maher, ahead of his dinner with President Trump, talking about the woke crazy train. Listen to this.
Right past, you're going to meet with the president.
I am?
So Kid Rock makes it happen. What do you think has been the response so far? What do you think it will be, and why are you doing it? Which I'm totally for, by the way, and I love it.
I get it. Well, I'm doing it because, first of all, it was presented as
a dare.
not a dare. No, just like, maybe this is a beginning to heal America. No, I don't have some sort of complex where I think I can heal America. I can't. Okay, let's get that clear. I'm not going to be healing America. But
well, I mean, when you can bridge the gap between two extremes and bring people to the table of discussion, I think that's a good first step to healing this country. Now, I mean, yeah, Bill Maher, he's a jerk. We all know it. But, you know, even a broken clock is right twice a day, and sometimes he really does get it right. And he stuns the left because he calls out their BS.
If two guys who've been at each other for so long, I mean, it's kind of a Nixon to China thing. I have the credential. There was nobody who was harder on Trump or more prescient about the fact that he wasn't going to leave office voluntarily than I was. I feel like I have the credentials. But they also respect me because I'm honest about the woke train to crazy town. And I don't shrink from that, and I've also lost a lot of fans for that. The woke people have left the building, and I'm willing to make that sacrifice. But it does give
I mean, who really wants the woke mob hanging out with you anyway, man? Those guys are lunatics.
You a certain credibility. So I just think to meet somebody, first of all, it's an honor to be invited to the White House.
Yes, it is.
And I've already had a couple of people who I said to them, you know, I'm just going to take it as a backhanded compliment that you glide right past the idea that little Bill Maher from Rivervale, New Jersey, just a humble kid from the suburb, was invited for a private dinner to the White House. You glide right past that to how dare you talk to him, and that you're not impressed by it at all. I'm impressed by it a lot. I'm impressed the fuck out of it. I get to go to the White House. And yes, that is the structure of this dinner, is just let's talk. Let's talk to each other face to face. Let's not stop shouting from 3,000 miles away, you know? So if they expect me to be leaving in a MAGA hat, they're going to be very disappointed, but I know they don't. And I think it's going to be, look, it probably will accomplish very little, but you got to try, man. You got to try.
Well, at least they're trying, okay? Like I said, I'm no fan of Bill Maher. A broken clock is right twice a day, and at least somebody is taking a step forward to initiate conversation, and he's not going to let the woke mob dictate how he, should he be shamed? Shame for going to the White House and talking with President Trump. Shame for sharing a table with President Trump. No, you take the opportunity. If you have an invitation to the White House, you go. Okay, not like during the 2016 administration when you had people saying you had full-on sports teams that were not going to go to the White House. Give me a break. Here's Kid Rock describing dinner with President Trump and Bill Maher. Check this out.
Obviously, could not have been better. Everyone was so surprised, so pleasant. The most shocking thing to me was, Bill's obviously a very big liberal, been very hard on the president, but he's donated a lot of money to other politicians. You've had Biden, Clinton, Obama, everybody. He had never been to the White House, and the president was so gracious. He took us up to the private residence. We saw the Gettysburg Address in the Lincoln bedroom, and I was like, "You've never been here, Bill?" And I was like, "How about this, President Trump? Extending this olive branch, and we talked about things we had in common, ending wokeness, securing the border." The president was asking him what he thought about policy, going on with Iran and Israel and things. It just meant, it blew my mind. I was very, very proud.
And that's how you start to build bridges. Here we have Kid Rock. We got some more talking about uniting the country again.
I'm actually going to try to unite this country, and I'm starting at the end of the month. I'm taking Bill Maher to the White House for dinner. This guy who's done nothing but talk smack about the president since day one. But he's a comedian too.
Yeah.
And, I can have conversations with him, if you don't get into Trump, because I'm like, I freaking love him.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't. I'm like, let's talk about other things. We can find common ground. He's actually, more reasonable than a lot of people on the right would think.
I think
especially the last maybe 4 years or whatever. So I said to him, I was doing his podcast, and I said, if I can hook you guys up, this, that, and the other. And trust me, there's a lot more people deserving at that table, for dinner. So it's a big deal to me to, bring him there and even have the president be like, yeah, do it. Let's do it.
And of course it happened, right? Now here is President Trump with Kid Rock in the White House. I mean, look at the Kid Rock. I mean, I saw some of your comments. The guy, people are like, is he related to Evel Knievel? Yeah. I wonder. I think I may know who designed this outfit. I'm gonna have to make a couple phone calls. But here is President Trump taking executive action to protect fans.
It's called him Mr. Rock. Of course, sir. So this is an executive order, as you said, that deals with the ticket reselling business. For fans of live entertainment and for entertainers as well, the ticket reselling industry has become a huge issue. These people use bots and computer algorithms to buy up huge blocks of tickets and then jack up the price so that fans of live entertainers like Mr. Ritchie, I almost called him Mr. Rock, don't have access to concerts the way that they should. And when they do, it's at exorbitantly high prices. So what this executive order does, it charges the FTC and the Department of Justice with rigorously enforcing laws on the books in collaboration with state attorneys general that have power over consumer protection and other people who have the power to really crack down on this issue so that entertainers and fans won't be subject to these abusive and oftentimes illegal practices.
Good. Thank you very much.
Of course, sir. So
I never thought I'd see an executive order on that, but here we are. I mean, I'm sure you've probably gone to a concert, realizing tickets are all sold out, only to find out that all those tickets were picked up by ticket scalpers. I mean, growing up, I had friends that's what they did. They would go buy huge blocks of tickets and they would resell them and make huge amounts of money. And they had people standing in line. This is long before they had like automated bots that could buy up the tickets. So here is Kid Rock actually talking in the Oval Office.
Those you want to go to. Bob, you want to say something? Yeah, anybody it doesn't matter your politics. First off, thank you, Mr. President, because this has happened at lightning speed. I know you I want to make sure Alina Habba gets her credit too, because I know she worked very hard on this, but thank you for making this happen so quick. Anyone who's bought a concert ticket in the last decade, maybe 20 years, no matter what your politics are, knows that it's a conundrum. You buy a ticket for $100, by the time you check out, it's 170. You don't know what you can charge for it, but more importantly, these bots, you know, they come in to get all the good tickets to your favorite shows you want to go to, and then they're relisted immediately for sometimes a 400% or 500% markup. And the artists don't see any of that money. And, you know, ultimately, I think this is a great first step. I would love down the road if there would be some legislation that we could actually put a cap on the resale of tickets. And I'm a capitalist and a deregulation guy, but they've tried this in some places in Europe, and it seems to be the only thing that's us as artists be able to get the tickets into the hands of the fans at the prices we set. I'll be the first one to say, and I know the president doesn't like when I say this, but I'm a little overpaid right now. It's kind of ridiculous. I would rather be, you know, a hero to the working class people and have them be able to come attend my shows and give them a fair ticket price. I can't control that right now, so hopefully this is a step to really be able to make that happen.
Yeah, when ticket prices are $900 a ticket because you have scalpers who are pushing the prices up, the average American just can't go and have fun at these concerts. So here's more from that moment.
You better do well with this. He's going to do it. Make sure everything is nice and clean, right? For your
Make America fun again.
Because you're not in the clean industry. Hold that up. Okay? Thank you, everybody.
Nice. Here's President Trump responding to a question about Kid Rock's outfit.
I was thinking about a lot of people though.
President Trump, would you ever wear a jacket like that?
I don't know. I was thinking about doing it for tomorrow. We have a big event coming up, and I was thinking about doing it. I'm not sure.
So
Okay, President Trump, I know exactly where you can get an outfit like that. Here's another question Trump gets about, did Biden do news conferences like this?
Did Biden do news conferences like this, Peter? I don't think
no, he was never standing next to somebody who looked like they were about to be shot out of a cannon.
Wouldn't have worked out.
Shot out of the cannon. Here's more from that moment. Let's see. Kid Rock talks about his dinner with President Trump. This was on Fox Business.
All right, tell us what happened from start to finish in 30 seconds.
In 30 seconds, I went on Bill's show, I went on his podcast, and I said, man, you know, nothing happens if people don't break bread together and meet face to face. He's been one of the president's hardest critics, and we came to dinner, me, Bill, Dana White, and it could not have been better. Everyone was so surprised, so pleasant. The most shocking thing to me was, you know, Bill's obviously a very big liberal, been very hard on the president, but he's donated a lot of money to other politicians. You know, you've had Biden, Clinton, Obama, everybody. He had never been to the White House, and the president was so gracious. He took us up to the private residence. We saw the Gettysburg Address in the Lincoln bedroom, and I was
Okay, yeah, we saw that clip. Let's take a look now. Here's CNN. Democrats in Congress now have a whopping 21% approval rating. I wonder why.
Approved one. Holy Toledo. Voters' views of the Democrats in Congress among all voters disapproved, 68%. And look at the approved number, just 21%, even lower than the Democratic Party at large. This is the lowest on record for Democrats, according to Quinnipiac University polling. You think these numbers are bad? Let's go to this side of the screen. We'll look how Democratic voters feel. Get this. The plurality of Democratic voters disapprove of Democrats in Congress at 49%, and just 40% approve. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Oh, my goodness gracious, you just can't get worse than these numbers.
And this is the number right here really driving all of this. If Democrats have turned, if Democratic voters have turned on Democrats in Congress and the Democratic Party, that's what puts the numbers at historic lows. What is it they want to be seeing, these voters?
What is going on? I'll tell you what's going on. They don't like what's coming out of some of those Senate Democrats like Chuck Schumer, because take a look at the direction of the party. Democratic voters on Democrats in Congress doing too little to oppose Donald Trump. Look at this, 77%. Should stay principled, even if it means nothing gets done in Washington, D.C., 65%. And this 65% is such a difference from where we were in 2017 at this point, when just 33% of Democrats say they should stay principled, compared to 59% who said they want to compromise. Democrats do not want compromise at this point. They want a fighter. They want to go into the ring like Muhammad Ali did against Sonny Liston. They want to take down the Republicans. They do not want this compromise anymore. They want to be more like Republicans. Get
You know, I watch these. I watch it. They want a fighter. 80% of the American people are against them. You know, maybe they should start reading the writing on the wall and get with the program about what the American people actually want. Because they'll forever stay in the minority if they continue to play these games.
to that stage and fight. And right now they feel like their leaders in Congress are simply not doing so. And that is why their approval rating for congressional Democrats is at an all-time low, even among Democrats with more disapproving than approving.
Yeah, it seems that the Senate Democrats, some of them are banking on the idea that there is still a political middle, as it were. We will see. We will see.
We will see if there's a political middle, but at this point, count me skeptical that that is at least what the Democratic base wants at this point. It's going to be very interesting, John, to see moving forward whether or not there are any repercussions come 2026, because I bet there may be some coming.
Harry.
Yeah, buckle up, dude. Yeah, keep pandering to the woke agenda. Keep screaming about Doge and oh my goodness, I'm so sad that they cut the transgender operations for comic book heroes in Uganda, right? Here's Scott Jennings on this Wisconsin Supreme Court race. Everyone's talking about a very important race right now. Listen to this.
The party has to do. I do think a couple of things are true. Number one, the Republican Party is grappling with a new reality. We have a lot of voters in the party that do not vote regularly. They're low propensity voters. They turned out for Donald Trump. They like to vote when he's on the ballot. But even in the November election, you saw people show up, vote Trump, and then leave the rest of it blank. One of the things the party has to do is condition those people to show up even when Donald Trump is not the person they're voting for. Number two, I think the Elon Musk point that you played earlier about the future of Western civilization, I actually think this is a key issue the Republicans ought to lean in on.
The party controls the House. It to a significant degree controls the country, which then steers the course of Western civilization. So it's like, I feel like this is one of those things that may not seem that it's going to affect the entire destiny of humanity, but I think it will. Yeah.
Because it's not just a one-off election when you're voting in the Wisconsin Supreme Court race or some congressional special election in Florida. These things matter. There are ripple effects. A vote here causes major implications on policy down the line. So I think Elon is actually onto something with that messaging. And I hope Republicans, especially the new ones who aren't regular voters, take it to heart. I do think a couple of things are true. Number one, the Republican Party is grappling with a new...
We just got photobombed by Angelo. How do you like that? Scott Jennings on point, though. Here we have more. This is from the press conference earlier today, talking about the Houthi strikes.
These Houthi strikes have been incredibly successful. Last time I was at this podium, there were more than 100 successful strikes. There have now been over 200 successful strikes against the Houthis. Iran is incredibly weakened as a result of these attacks, and we have seen they've taken out Houthi leaders. They've taken out critical members who were launching strikes on naval ships and on commercial vessels, and this operation will not stop until the freedom of navigation in this region is restored, which is a critical principle, and this president stands behind our Defense Department, who's doing a tremendous job.
Here we have more from the press secretary talking about Lee Zeldin. I watched the press conference live. Tom was at the press conference today at the White House, so we were watching it all unfold in real time, and I couldn't believe about this museum, some environmental museum that Joe Biden decided he was going to create. Listen to this. They shut it down, though, thank God.
Because you did bring up Doge, I do want to tout the incredible efforts that have been made at the Environmental Protection Agency. And Administrator Lee Zeldin is just doing a tremendous job. Just yesterday and today it will be going into effect. He announced that taxpayers will be saved $8 million in annual lease costs by moving staff out of the 323,000 square feet of space that the EPA currently occupies, which is completely unnecessary. Yesterday, Administrator Zeldin also announced he will be shutting down a museum that the Biden administration built to tell a selective story about the EPA's history and climate change. It was a real
You see what she said there? A selective story. They're rewriting history. They're injecting their woke ideology into the museum campuses that are in Washington, D.C., and your tax dollars are paying for this endless propaganda storm. Thank God Donald Trump and Elon Musk have discovered it and shut it down, saving you money. Oh, they complain. Oh my goodness, they took $50 million. What's $50 million in the grand scheme of things? Well, when it all adds up, it all adds up.
On the back to President Biden, and guess how much American taxpayers paid for it? $4 million for this museum that I think only 1,000 visitors saw last year alone, and it will cost American taxpayers $600,000 per year to operate this museum. Well, it's not going to exist anymore. We're going to save taxpayers those critical funds, and Administrator Zeldin is very proud to announce that. And just at EPA alone, and the cuts that they have made, they've saved taxpayers more than $22 billion in wasteful grants and spending.
$22 billion have been saved so far. $22 billion, and that number is only going to increase. Here we have more. This is Secretary Scott Bessent talking about Liberation Day, which kicks off tomorrow.
Get out ahead of April 2nd. We are going to disclose the reciprocal tariffs. I'm not going to get out ahead of President Trump. He's going to announce them 3 o'clock on Wednesday. And I think for the first time in decades, probably since I was a college student, we're going to see a fair trade, and everyone will have the opportunity to lower their tariff, lower their non-tariff barriers, stop the currency manipulation, stop subsidizing labor, stop subsidizing, stop providing cheap loans, and they make the global trading system fair for American workers again. And if President Trump campaigned on this, he has a mandate. As you know, he had a substantial electoral college majority. He won all 7 swing states, and he won the popular vote. So he has a mandate to do this. He's doing what he promised he would do.
Okay.
He's bringing jobs home.
Let's talk about
Okay, so Liberation Day. Let's talk about that for a second. Reciprocal trade. That's like, it just goes over a lot of people's heads. Reciprocal trade. So, if, let's just say Europe, they're taxing 20% on butter, American butter, and we want to have our butter go over there, but we've got this massive tariff inside Europe. Well, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to tariff European butter at the same rate. But if Europe brings their tariff down to 0, then guess what? We bring our tariff down to 0. And it's equal across the board. It's free trade, and there's no extra costs. You see, that's how it's going to liberate everything. It's going to equalize the playing field. So if they're striking up a 300% tariff on milk in Canada, well, guess what? They're going to have to bring that down, or else we're going to charge 300% on anything they bring in milk to America. That's how it works. And it's about damn frickin' time. So let's continue. We've got more. Here's Chris Coons. Oh, goodness, Chris Coons. Showing their true colors, Democrat Senator Chris Coons thinks your average middle American is too stupid to find Greenland on a map.
Voter, look, your average Trump voter laughs at us and says he's owning the libs. Mm-hmm. And your average middle American says, why are you wasting your time worrying about Greenland? I can't even find it on a map. Look.
Yeah, he thinks you're stupid. Here's more. President Trump on the executive order for the U.S. Treasury to modernize their payment system.
The checks issue, we have an executive order for your attention relating actually to government payments. Historically, checks issued by the Treasury are, I believe, 14 times more likely to become the subject of fraud than electronic transfer payments. This is an executive order that's going to push the Treasury Department to modernize its payment system to ensure that where possible they're using electronic methods of payment as opposed to paper checks in order to reduce waste, fraud, and abuse in the government, which is obviously an endeavor that we've been pursuing in numerous aspects of government under your leadership.
It's basically modernization of equipment and methods, and it's something that really, I think he's going to be a great Secretary of the Treasury, wanted, Scott. And so we're doing this, and we have other modernization programs going on. We could let somebody else, whoever's next, whoever that may be, do it, but it's something that should have been done 25, 30 years ago.
I mean, imagine how much could be saved just by the reduction of all that wasted paper
We have an
and
executive order
mechanics.
for your...
Just digitizing the payment structure of the United States government. Speaking of badasses, here is Stephen Miller talking about the great healing on Fox.
And this is the great healing and rejuvenation of the American economy after half a century of rampant offshoring, outsourcing, and deindustrialization. Sean, there was once a time in which Motor City in Michigan, Detroit automakers powered the entire globe. There was once a time when you could drive through Pennsylvania and all you would see were humming steel mills, humming coal plants, manufacturing facilities, again, that were supplying the entire world, supplying Americans and all of planet Earth. Ohio was again a bedrock of American industry and manufacturing. Foreign countries like China, Canada, Mexico, Cambodia, Vietnam, and the European Union took advantage of our country and our leaders, and they used both high tariffs, illegal subsidies, product dumping, currency manipulation, intellectual property theft, and other unfair trade practices and predatory trade practices to crush American industry. President Trump is resetting the entire global market by saying, number one, you can't steal our jobs. Number two, if you want to get preferential treatment, you have to put your factory inside the United States. Your auto plant, your manufacturing facility, your AI plant, your chip plant, whatever it is, you want to sell it to Americans on a preferential basis, then you have to make it here. And if you do, you'll get low taxes, low regulations, and cheap energy. But if you sell it to us from overseas, then yes, you will pay a tariff. This is the great healing and...
If you do it overseas, you're going to pay a tariff. Just relocate, bring the businesses home. Speaking of singer-songwriters, here's John Rich talking about the scalping executive order.
Ticket, they want to come. Well, the fees are ridiculous. So, you know, Ticketmaster, they got a major issue on their hands. And yes, when people go, for instance, to buy a Big and Rich ticket, they want to come see me and Big Kenny play a show. They're like, oh, cool, this not too expensive. I can buy that ticket. And then, like Kid Rock was saying, by the time they check out, man, it's like 50, 60%, sometimes more than that, higher just from the fees. You know, this is almost like a lockout. There's not that many places that sell tickets. I wish there was more competition. I think it honestly should be looked at. Do these companies control it too much? Is this almost a monopoly situation? And I think this executive order from the president is a good way to kick this off. And by the way, how does he do that? I mean, how many plates can this president spin at the same time? I mean, I really appreciate him looking at issues like this. On top of everything else he's doing, man. I mean, he is smacking home run after home run right now. Well, the fees are...
Home run after home run, baby. That's what it's like when America is put first again, finally. Even making concerts great again. This is not something I expected. Kid Rock, the peace negotiator. What?
So smart. And any snare that's walked away without saying, like, wow. What a great guy. He's so funny, so engaging. He's so smart. And absolutely, Bill even said to me, you know, after that, he goes, wow, that was, you know, everybody's mind was kind of blown. Even the president's, I think, because the president called me late night last night. And, you know, everyone was a little suspect about going into this. And even the president kind of alerted to me a little bit like, what do you got me doing? Right. And I go, man, we're just trying to show people that, you know, even though we've been pretty hard on each other, that when you get face to face, maybe we could have a little more civility in this country and try to bring people together.
And
that was my whole intention.
You know, that was so important because so many people now are in their own little silos and they don't even talk to the people across the street because they voted for somebody else. You showed that two of the biggest, most vocal people on both sides of the aisle can break bread, have a good time, and ultimately, I'm sure you took a bunch of pictures.
We did. Well, we kind of checked our phones. You know, the president put his phone on a table, and he said everybody, you know, and the guys kind of took ours, and the White House took some pictures, which I'm sure they'll put out at some point, because I can't wait to have one of those. I was clowning around the White House all day, taking pictures in the bowling alley and this, and running around in my flashy, as your son called it, Peter, my get shot out of a cannon suit. That was funny.
Evel Knievel. Right. So you did this. You set this up. Do you sense that anything will change with Bill Maher's show from here? Because I think he's been very fair, to be honest, out of all those shows. What do you think?
That's my hope that, and God bless Bill, too, for, he even said going into this, he goes, because I go, Bill, I know, some of this Hollywood stuff, it would be great for you to get thrown out, and it'd probably be good for you to double down and be like, I can't stand this guy. And he goes, Bob, I'm not going to sabotage something that potentially could bring us and other people together, just to show that, that family member that you kind of divided with over politics, or that person at the school when you drop your kids off that is a left-wing person, and you're like, that maybe we'll just, hey, we can find things we have in common. And it gets so easy to go on social media. And one thing we learned through COVID was that isolation breeds hatred. We need to get out and talk to one another.
And you did it, and you made a difference. Thanks so much. Well done.
Yeah, it's good to see these people coming together. That's what we need in this country. More healing. More healing. And, just to let you guys know, in case you didn't see, we're broadcasting outside right with the Gulf of America behind me. And we're celebrating the Gulf of America. We're celebrating the healing of America right here on the coast of Florida in an undisclosed location, bringing you all the news that everybody needs to hear. I think we got some more clips here for you from today. Just trying to find out exactly where we are. And no, don't see it. Okay. So, what we're witnessing isn't just a policy change, it's a dismantling of an elitist gatekeeping system that's kept average Americans locked out of entertainment for decades. Think about it, Taylor Swift fans paying thousands while corporate middlemen pocket the profits. UFC followers unable to see fights without mortgaging their homes. Meanwhile, Kid Rock, a symbol of American defiance, stands in the Oval Office as this system begins to collapse. Perhaps most stunning is the dinner party that followed. Trump, Kid Rock, Dana White, and yes, liberal talk show host Bill Maher breaking bread together. When Kid Rock was asked how it went, his response was simple. It couldn't have been better. The culture war's ending isn't coming with a bang, but with an unexpected alliance forming across old battle lines. So here's the question America needs to answer. If Kid Rock can bring Bill Maher to the Trump White House for dinner, is the supposed division in our country actually manufactured by those who profit from keeping us apart? Share your support for cultural unity with our exclusive Next News gear. You'll find it linked in the merch shop down below, shop.nextnewsnetwork.com.